Hi, Jeff. Hi, everyone.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Amir.
Well, we normally start at like 5 after, but let's go ahead and get going so that we can get as much discussion as we can. Especially if there's any new faces here today that want to introduce themselves, we can get started with that while people join. Yeah, so if you're new here, if you haven't been in a while, totally optional. Feel free to introduce yourself and say hello.
Hi, I'm Dave Stewart. I haven't been here for a while, but because when the meeting time changed, it overlapped a bunch of stuff that I have as part of my day job. And in fact, I can only stay for the first half hour. So I apologize for not having been here lately, but trying to do my best to rejoin when I can. I'm at Intel. I been involved in open source for a long time, launched a number of open source projects like the Yocto project, various other programs I've been involved with over the years. Some have been pretty successful, like the Yocto project. Others have just sort of gone the wayside. Anyway, I've been at Intel since '97, in the industry for longer than I want to talk about. But anyway, I'm more of a system software operating system, and now security since 2018 has been my sort of full-time gig. So anyway, that's me.
Yeah, welcome back, Dave. Yeah, we've got build root on the agenda, so hopefully you have some insight there. Anybody else?
Yeah. My name is Benjamin Schmidt. I'm a cybersecurity engineer from MITRE. Mostly, I've not been involved in open source before. I'm just looking to join and contribute and from there.
Oh, welcome.
Since many people are introducing themselves, I guess it's the first time also for me here. I'm Thierry Solo. I work on reproducible builds and Debian. I've been invited to these meetings by my colleague Chris Lambert. I noticed that he attended several meetings in the past years. Looking around what kind of collaboration we might possibly have, and what do you do?
All right, welcome.
Hey, everybody. My name is Georg. I'm with Ericsson. I'm in the Ericsson OSPO open source program office, following various things in the OpenSSF, but I haven't really managed to join that call very often, or not at all recently, because of collisions and other things. So my primary objective for today is really just to again get an overview of what you guys are discussing and doing. That's it from my end.
Anyone else? Okay. So
Can we find out who Shy Observer is?
yeah, it's up to them, up to people if they want to introduce themselves. um, so yeah, meeting time update in 2 weeks. We're going to switch we've been alternating every other week this time and APAC friendly. So in 2 weeks, we're switching our APAC friendly time to a different time because of daylight savings. I haven't updated the calendar. I need to update that. To those of you that are new, we are in the middle of updating our set of critical projects. We have a group of projects that have been proposed. And so normally, like we do typical working group meetings where we have proposals for discussion and we discuss, but this meeting and the previous one and the next one are a little special in that we're going to, these are working meetings, and we're going to be working through the list and doing group consensus and voting. So any insight and knowledge you can bring to the table would be very much appreciated. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and get started because we've traditionally taken the whole time and more discussing. So would anybody like to be the presenter?
I can present, Jeff.
Okay, thanks a lot, Amir.
Sorry, I'm just taking a sec to get my view good for everybody. But I believe we're starting with build pack depths, Jeff.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. It's the next one. All right, and so for those of you that weren't here last time or a couple of years ago when we did this, basically we're looking to build consensus on each line, whether it's critical or not. So feel free, anybody, to kind of throw out an argument or a straw man, and then just to get the discussion started, and some reasoning. But yeah, it looks like this one was recommended when we just did a quick pull of the highest pulled Docker containers, and this one was what's up there. Yeah, and again, just feel free to speak out or raise your hand on the Zoom. Hey, Randall.
I would consider it critical.
Okay, and what for?
A lot of things depend on it.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a consistent set of dependencies that can be used by a lot of different operating systems and languages. So I've seen it quite a bit around in different build pipelines and in different things. So it seems pretty highly used, especially in Docker Kubernetes land. Even in Cloud Foundry land, if people still use that stuff.
Yeah, my question on this one is I looked at the GitHub repo, and it seemed like, yeah, they're really acknowledging that they're just pulling in the most popular things that people need, bundling it up as a Docker container, and then therefore it's often pulled. But should we be looking at the actual underlying projects? Because if we say this is critical, we're not really highlighting those underlying actual build tools, but just saying that the packaging is a critical step. And that's the thing that we need to focus on, is the packaging.
That's a good point. I mean, I think it depends on if we're considering the Docker ecosystem, because I think this is a very Docker specific dependency.
Right. Well, yeah, it absolutely is. It's basically just the bundling part of these important things into a Docker container is the thing that we're deciding is critical or not here, I think.
Is there a way of maybe putting this at the end? So therefore, when we do like the final look at everything, we could see how far we've ventured into Docker land. And then if we've ventured far enough, then I would say that it would be critical.
I mean, I'd like to make a decision right now. I think for the process, we really want to try to make a decision, yes or no, on each line as we go.
I suggest no for what you said, Jeff, that this
Yeah,
is
I
packaging
think
and
what you
not.
said makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I would say no there, but we should definitely make a comment here that like we should look into like why are people pulling this and what does it contain, and are those things that maybe we need to add for the next iteration.
Okay. Next we have build root.
Right. Thanks for the heads up. I think the biggest concern we probably ought to have with any of these systems, well, I mean, basically what it does, the description is very good. It's very similar to the Octo project in that it's sort of a combination of a system that will build a bootable Linux image primarily for embedded devices. So it's pulling together Linux sources from a variety of areas or that come packaged with it and then produce a bootable image. The main concern, I think, a lot of times for the embedded world is folks will just create a device and throw it out there and then never update it. And so to some extent, there's a bigger meta issue than just, do they have somebody thinking about security and updating things? At the surface level, the most important risk on something like this is that are they really on a good cadence for, so when I build Linux, right, it's not just the kernel, but I got a collection of other, stuff, libraries, commands, et cetera, that go into it. And so the question is that being, looked at to update the, the components so that when CVEs get issued or when there's security breaches or whatever, that there's a, cadence of these things coming out. So I would say that's probably the biggest risk area for something like build root, and it's surprisingly fundamental. So I would say, again, this is not the build tool itself, what it uses. It's more like the Linux it's producing can have, if it's not up to date, it can have, components that would expose potentially millions of devices to open security exploits. So I would say, I would suggest this is a yes for sure.
David E.
I thought that Randall had his hand up first.
I think Randall's is still up. Randall's, are you?
Okay. Okay, so I just say that, I mean, I don't disagree this important, but I'm not certain that we should be considering the pace or cadence of releases from a project, because that seems orthogonal. I mean, what we're trying to decide is that this is a critical project, and then if the project needs additional resources, so it's not a matter of whether the project is actually functioning well or not. It's a matter of whether the project is important in its consumption. So I don't think it's the inner workings, governance, security policies of the project are irrelevant to whether it's critical.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. But because I guess the question would be even today. Now, I admit I haven't worked on the embedded world since about 2016 or so. So a lot of stuff may have changed. As I understood the landscape of all the embedded devices out there, there was a sort of a split between people who use like a Fedora or something like that, just a conventional desktop Linux, and they hack it till it works for them. There are folks that take the open source Android project. There are folks that use the Octo project, and then there are some that will use build root or something like that. A lot of routers and a lot of switches and that sort of thing use build root. It was my knowledge of it.
But what's exactly your point? I mean, I just want to point out to people.
I was trying to answer your question, sir. I was trying to answer your question about the importance. So if you think about millions of LAN switches out there that are
Mhm.
you know, getting their Linux built with this thing, that seems pretty critical. So
What would be do you know the popularity of like Buildroot versus Yocto? Are those the two things we're kind of comparing here?
I don't have
Okay.
I don't have a clarity on that one. Again, my data is a little old,
Okay.
few years old, 5-6 years. I mean, I think it's still used, but I couldn't tell you how many people are. It's a pretty simple, you know, setup and use between Buildroot and the Yocto project. So I think it's probably pretty widespread. I could ask somebody pretty quickly though online and get an answer back pretty fast. But I would argue, from what I know, it's pretty critical to a lot of devices in the world. And so, yeah, I think it should be focused on.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a similar question to some of these, actually, even to the one above it, which is like, is it, you know, it is a distribution, like it is a point of, you know, place where people can get in and compromise it, and then they would theoretically have an access to a lot of things, but it's also just kind of a bundling or packaging. Like, I don't, you know, I mean, like the bootloaders, like we were looking at U-boot grub before as well, because this is kind of the same issue that's suggesting these kind of low level devices. And you know, the bootloaders seem like to me like something that's running code, you know, on the device. It's an actual software project, whereas the distributions, I'm not so sure.
I agree with you, Jeff, that it has a lot of similarities as the one above it, even though it's not really a collection of tools,
Yeah.
you know. So I think that maybe if we're going to be consistent on that type of stuff, I would say no. And I know that we have GCC a little bit further down, which is still not decided yet. So but we also have Alpine, which we did accept, which is further above.
Right.
So it's tricky.
Yeah.
Well, Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "A false consistency is the hobgoblin of simple minds."
Yeah, I don't think we have to be. You're right. Like, just because we say build pack, the reason build pack depths is not, if Buildroot is just used on all the routers, you know, that seems important.
Then I'm okay with voting yes and saying that that's why we voted yes, because there is widespread in routers. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, the thing I wish we had is like the Buildroot versus Yocto. Like, should we do both? Should we do one or the other? Or, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they're both super important, then
Yeah.
why can't they both be on there? So,
Yeah.
but if it's in a lot of, infrastructure, like devices that make other devices work, then I would probably put this as a yes.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Next, we have BusyBox.
I would probably say yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, yeah, I would say so.
I would
For the
agree.
record, I asked ChatGPT. According to ChatGPT, Yocto is considered more popular and more widely used.
Nice.
Why do
could
we
be
even have to be
hallucinating.
here? Why do we even need to, you know,
Seriously,
meet?
why don't we
just
just
let
have ChatGPT do this for us?
run this through? It's good. I feel I could go and have a latte then. You miss me? Have you missed me?
All right, how about Caddy? This looks like
That's also a tricky one. I feel that it's somewhat niche, but it is widely used.
Full counts show it's widely used. I think that's why it's here. I think one of the questions we have with some of these things is it used in important systems, you know, or is it used for toy projects? I don't know about Caddy, but that was a discussion we had on another type of similar thing where it was you know, a simple website type of thing that you could pull like a blog and run.
The
it was
main
very
use
popular.
of Caddy, from my understanding, it's because of its management of certificates. It's a lot. It kind of just is very easy. I know that it's also like a reverse proxy and they've been doing other things with it, but I don't know anybody that uses it. Like as far as like the open source community, I haven't seen anyone really use it widely, but I have a limited view of open source as pretty much anyone, but
Yeah, I mean, this isn't, you know, HTTPD or Nginx. Like even if
it
it's
would be
got high-
interesting comparing that to Nginx though, to see like where the pull count of Nginx is compared to Caddy.
Well, I don't know if like Docker containers of the primary use case or primary way people deploy Nginx. I mean, I'm sure it's a popular one, but
Yeah.
I think it's a different. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a completely arbitrary metric to use.
Yeah, we don't want to necessarily compare two things, but yeah, it isn't. I think the pull count is a good metric to like put something on here to think about, which is what we're doing. Like we're not necessarily auto approving anything with a high pull count, but yeah, we definitely want to look at and see if we know that it's something that's used.
Yeah, anyway, that pull counter is obviously skewed. I mean, Caddy has a 300 something million pulls and Bash has less somehow. I mean, that's obviously not proper.
The pull or the fact that it's widely used is the only real thing that makes it critical, but beyond that, I don't know. I can't pull up any data that actually would tell me that it's critical, like Apache or Nginx, that you could say definitively those are widely used.
Yeah, I think I'd be leaning towards no then for that reason. I think we're all kind of, you know, thinking, do we have any reason to say yes? And I don't hear anybody coming up with something.
So let's vote no and move on.
Yeah. Any thoughts there?
sounds fair.
Cassandra is, of course, wildly popular. It's what they base iCloud on. Apple, you know, is one of the largest users of Cassandra. It's a Java-based, eventually consistent database, and it's super critical. Now, since Apple's focused on it, I think they're probably not going to have any worries. But yeah, it's incredibly popular.
Yeah, I would
Again,
probably say that's critical.
I agree.
I agree it's critical, but again, the supporters is an orthogonal discussions.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we can say it's critical, even if we think it's well taken care of.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so Wheeler has some thoughts here.
I think he's pretty spot on with those thoughts, to be honest. CentOS is also, now you have like CentOS and CentOS Stream, which is different. So theoretically, CentOS as a distro, like traditional distro, is no more.
Yeah, and I think David said that in the comment. Amir, I think there's a comment on
Yeah,
the
CentOS
comment.
has forked itself into CentOS and other projects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not Rocky Linux. There's other, I mean, so it's a question of, I think we're implicitly agreeing that that the major Linux distros are critical, but that's sort of, but we aren't trying to throw that wide a net because that's sort of not useful.
One question, guys, in that context. You mentioned it before that right now you base criticality on the pull count, but
No, we didn't.
or primarily, let's say.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I think we're
Okay.
saying that the pull count is a reason to consider a project for discussion.
Okay, but
Yeah.
then my actual question is, what about available alternatives? Because here, like this would also apply. It's say one or many distributions.
No, I think that,
And-
that what we're talking about here isn't if it disappeared, what would people do? It's if it was compromised or had a critical
Okay.
bug, like what would be the impact?
Okay, fair
Um,
enough.
And
Yep.
it's not specifically like how widespread it is because, impacting your power grid is different than like impacting a bunch of people's blogs, for example. So those are some of the things we think about.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for the context.
Quick question,
worries.
Jeff, is RPM on here somewhere?
I don't know.
Because I
Scroll
would
down.
argue that RPM, CentOS, and I think we have some people from IBM, so I could be wrong, but I think they all use more or less the same packages. So would it be wiser to maybe consider the RPM ecosystem as a whole? Because that would probably be critical.
I don't think the ecosystem's a project.
No?
Yeah, I don't understand what you're even trying to suggest. I mean, in the sense of RPM as a package matter, the software may be critical, but RPM is not itself an ecosystem. It's not a matter that I can take an RPM for one Linux distro and just automatically use it on another Linux distro. It's not an ecosystem.
Right. I was suggesting that there's several distros that use RPM.
Mhm.
That was the ecosystem I was referring to.
Yeah, no, I think Randall, we need to focus on the projects. Like if it's the distro would be like the packaging, but like for software projects, it'd be the code. And then, yeah, let's try to stick to the ones on the list and get through them. We'll have more suggestions and voting in another iteration, but yeah, feel free to look through and see what we have here already. Josh, you have your hand up.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm new to the group, so I'm just trying to get my bearings on this. And one of the things I'm curious about is what the purpose of the list is, just so it's a little bit clearer when we're looking at defining things as critical or not, what the criteria there are. I put a couple of questions in chat.
Oh, sorry. I haven't been
it's
staring
okay.
at those. But yeah, in general, it's kind of what I was saying, that how important is it if, or how, what would be the impact if it was either compromised or had a critical, a security bug that was found?
Yeah, and I guess the clarity I'm looking for there is, let's say we get this all defined on what is and isn't critical.
Mhm.
What are we doing with that list? Is this like
So
a list that we
we're
use
not doing
for-
anything in this group. It's more we
Okay.
put it out there and other people do stuff with the list. And there's been different initiatives that take it in different ways. Like Alpha Omega is using the list for kind of to look at what's going to be part of the Alpha project. We've done this before. We had an MFA initiative where we sent out like security keys to people on the developers on these projects, for example. But yeah, it's a bit outside the scope of the group. We try to just stick to like, trying to figure out what is critical and based on what we.
Yeah, but Jeff, I don't think I understand Josh's question, and the basic answer is that this is a working group in the OpenSSF, and this is working to produce this document of critical projects, and exactly the pipeline in the OpenSSF, how it will be consumed and how this information will affect policy is not completely decided.
Mhm. And criticality is all right. I'll do some more thinking on that, just trying to understand how criticality is being defined for context as I'm listening in.
Well, we've been
Yeah,
trying to
absolutely.
work
Thank you.
at various times. We can go back through the notes and the online of different definitions of criteria and different ways we tried to or proposed automating the decision, and we don't have a completely well-defined objective process yet. But you should definitely look at the long and storied history of trying to work on this.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Chromium.
But I think it comes about that it's another distro, but as David said, it has some uniqueness to it. Unique components. So I think it's more a matter of, I'm thinking about those unique components as opposed to it just being a variant Linux distro for Chrome.
I don't know. Chromium is the source code for
Yeah.
Chrome.
For Chrome, yeah.
So I would vote
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I second that.
Chronograph.
I think it's only here for the pull count. I think
Right,
if
yeah.
anybody doesn't have any,
I'd say no. I mean, I think a lot
Yeah,
of
Yeah, I
these
think
pull
that's
count-
kind of specific.
Yeah.
Use case specific.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards no as well. If it's just a monitoring and visualization UI.
yeah, agree.
Console. It's a HashiCorp project.
This is also Docker pull count.
I'd say no for this.
I'm leaning towards no. I think it's popular, but it's not at the level of like some of the other things that we're saying yes to.
Well, isn't what the guiding line here that if it were compromised, like what would happen to the open source ecosystem? Because it is a tool that is widely used and it does service discovery and a number of other things. So if it were compromised, it would be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, but is it as widely used as like Nginx or HTTPD or Chrome?
I would say no.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
think
I
this
think-
is I think this is one of the ones that's getting there, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I
I
think
would
it's
agree with
close.
that. Yeah.
The next is core utils, which I think is, I don't think there's a question, it's a yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think it's also in the Harvard Census 2 as well, comes up. It comes up a lot as well.
No, it's found until everything's replaced by REST, it's foundational tools in Linux distros. So FCB, I mean, it's similar to Cassandra.
Yeah, I would go with yes. Even
Do we-
though it's also one of those kind of that is on that line of kind of.
Yeah, so if we were to like rank all the databases and we put like 10 in, would it be in the top 10 with Cassandra? I'm just picking a random number. Anybody have any ideas?
I'm asking ChatGPT. Oracle's number 1. MySQL is number 2. Microsoft SQL is number 3. PostgreSQL is 4. MongoDB is 5. IBM DB2 is number 2 or 6. Redis is 7. Cassandra is 8. SQLite is 9, and MariaDB is 10.
So no, or
It was on there. Sounds Did you right? Didn't you say that?
Well, no, it wasn't on there.
Oh, it wasn't. I thought you said it.
no, it
It
wasn't part of
was-
the 10.
Oh, it was Cassandra. Yeah.
Okay, so noted that Debian, again, is an entire Linux distribution, so no to that.
I'm gonna say no there, yeah.
DLibc, I don't know, I mean,
No,
no.
yeah. So if we actually go to only open source database softwares, CouchDB is 6. Cassandra is 7. Which I don't know how it did that, but it did.
Incidentally, I noted there is no SQLite.
It was SQLite was 8 in the original list.
No, he's saying maybe on the securing critical projects list.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not used. We even if it's widely used, we don't think it's well,
That's
we'll
there.
get there. Yeah.
I mean, it's embedded by many more.
Yeah, but
programs.
we'll get it's 102. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Docto project's also 100.
OCI.
I would probably say yes, but it is true that it is a set of projects.
Yeah. Is it a set or is it? Well, it's. Is there a?
I believe OCI is like an umbrella. Yeah, it's opencontainers.org.
Yeah. Is anybody familiar with the breakdown of all the projects? Like, could we just pick the things that actually make containers run and say those are the critical ones?
It would be like run C,
Right.
C run.
Also, CI does a lot of specification work,
Yeah.
which
It says that OCI contains 3 specifications: the runtime specification, the image specification, and the distribution specification. That's what they do.
right, and then there is RunC that is like kind of default implementation, but there are many others.
Correct.
There are many.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think we're trying to describe software as being critical. I mean, the specification is clearly critical, but the specification or standards is not a critical project. I think we're talking about. I think we're referring to projects as packages, maybe.
So if we said RunC specifically, would we put it there, or is it really just like a reference implementation and people typically use other things?
It's usually that. It's like there's more options. I know that C run's getting more and more popular now. So I would say no.
Should we add in run C then, right underneath?
I mean, there is also Linux that is part of OCI. I didn't remember.
Yeah, we don't have run C.
Yeah, I think we should consider this OCI line as essentially RunC and redefine it.
Agreed.
And so we're saying no because while the specification is important, the RunC project itself is just it's the runtimes are splintered currently. Is that our reasoning?
That is the reason.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
You want me to fill in the links here?
Sure, thank you. Eclipse Mosquito.
So what's the reason? We're just going to say WG discussion for run C.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is Eclipse Mosquito is with Docker pull count recommendation. That's why we deployed Open MQTT broker.
I believe Eclipse Mosquito is supported by Red Hat, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe it's used in a lot of places.
I think this one is pretty similar to console here, which is probably important and widely used, but just not
I think
that
it's widely used in
ubiquitous.
IoT, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
MQTT. Yeah.
Could be wrong, but I know that LF is sending me into learning IoT things, and I know it comes up quite often.
Yeah, it's very common in IoT.
Oh, yes.
I would say yes, yeah.
HX Foundry. I don't really know a lot about HX Foundry.
It's an IoT project, but I don't know if it falls under critical. It would probably be more like an important project, but I don't know if it's a critical project.
Yeah, I'd say no here.
Yeah, I agree with no.
Firefox.
Firefox, yes.
Okay, I would agree.
GCC, yes.
Yes. Ghost. Looks like no.
Yeah, I think this
It's
is,
just a CMS.
yeah, I'd say no.
Yeah, I would say that would not be critical.
No.
That is critical.
glibc, I would say is a yes.
Yep, agreed.
What the fuck?
Golang is also critical.
Golang, I would say is a yes. Gradle, I would also say is a yes. Looks like it's already a yes here.
Yeah, that was from last week. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's right. Thank you. Grub. I believe we just talked about Grub, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I was saying Grub is an example of something that's critical versus
Yeah.
That's right. That's
the
right.
distro for the embedded systems.
Great.
HA proxy is critical.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
I think FluxDB is not
Yeah, that's
considering.
another pull count. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I would go with that is not really critical because that is very objective.
Sounds something very academic to me.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it is critical.
What did you just do?
Project containers, I think, are it's pushing it, but I think I mean, at LF, we have Gotcha containers in a lot of our training. So I would say that it is critical.
But do people use it in production?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think.
I'm in charge of rewriting the CKS course, and that's specifically mentioned in the CKS course.
What? But
G-Cloak.
is it? I'm gonna argue no here. Forgot to containers.
Yeah, it's one of those important but not critical ones, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Or key cloak. Kata containers as I said, so here's the thing, in CKS, they actually want you to know like runtimes and stuff like that. And content containers is one of those things that they specifically mention as like standard and you should be considering to use. So that's why I would argue that it is critical.
I mean, maybe the people think this is you know, where the direction that this is going, but is it currently, you know, super widespread and used everywhere? And is this even a part of the critical path, or is it like a built?
I would argue, considering that CKS has had it on their exam curriculum for a good while now, I would say that it is critical.
I don't think that being on an exam is a justification for it being critical. It's a matter of it's a technology for people to understand.
You're not wrong, but the way that it's like said in the course, it's kind of like saying like, I mean, it's my 2 cents would be that it would be because of the way that they refer to it in CNCF.
Yeah, I mean, CNCF is always just trying to, you know, promote the newest thing or the thing that's under development, right?
I don't think that it goes from a promotional standpoint, because I think it went past that point. It's now, I think, a matter of like considering what you're running and depending on how secure you're trying to be. So depending on that stance.
Well, I mean, I don't doubt it's a tool that's more secure than a way of doing things, you know, but is it currently something that is completely widely used and used in critical systems?
I know that like Intel uses it a lot, but I know that's like corporate, but yeah, I don't know anyone beyond Intel that really uses it in production.
I mean, I think we need more evidence here to say yes. Like
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Objective evidence of use in production, not education, not tools, not CNCF, not promotional material, not marketing, not. Yeah.
Okay, it seems like if more folks are leaning towards no, maybe we can mark it no and move on.
I agree.
Before moving on, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
I noticed that CMake was never mentioned in this list, whereas there is a note on Mason, Ninja, and Gradle. So, did anybody consider CMake among the build tools?
Shoot, sorry. I think it's in here. Yeah, it's in version
CMake's already
1.
on the list, yeah.
Oh, it's in one.
Yeah, and so these are all the things that we're going to add on. So CMake made the first cut.
Okay. And then not anymore. Okay, then thank you for answering.
Yep. So I believe we're back on Keycloak, which I believe I heard somebody say no. I mean, identity and access management is super important, especially with regards to security. But I don't really know enough about how widely used it is, and
It is certainly used in production, so that much I can say. And I would also agree to the, say, authentication and security aspects behind it, being kind of a gatekeeper to systems and so on. So if we think about impact, yeah, I guess that's quite important.
yeah.
Do we have any data like from census or criticality score or this isn't even Docker pull count data.
I'm trying to get data on content. I can try Keycloak after.
Okay.
Coming back on Kata, it is widely used in financial healthcare and government organizations primarily.
So do
It's
we
like
want to
why-
try to just like work through some of the easy ones, and because we're spending a lot of time debating stuff and like jump to Kubernetes, jump to KVM, Linux kernel. I mean, there are lots of things we can just sort of get off the list quickly. MariaDB, we already said was the top one. We want to sort of just take a
I mean,
quick pass.
we need to go through all of them.
No, I know we need to go through all of them, but I mean,
Yeah.
we want to try to take a quick pass of thing. We already said Nginx is important. We want to sort of take a quick pass and get things that aren't controversial, and then devote meetings to the things that aren't obvious.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
we've
like
got-
Kubernetes, KVM, those are easy.
As I said, I mean, Nginx, you got OpenJDK, OpenSSH, there are a bunch of things that are OpenVPN.
Sure.
There are lots of things that are obvious. Postgres.
Do we want to have both MySQL and MariaDB?
They're considered separate projects with separate usage.
Yeah, nowadays it is.
Yeah, I don't see why we can't spend the last 8 minutes going through maybe ones that are no brainers, or ones that we have unanimous agreement on, and like Postgres, I would agree with Postgres.
I mean, does anybody really disagree the Linux kernel isn't critical?
The
Right.
what? Sorry,
Linux kernel.
doesn't ring a bell. Sorry.
Okay. Well, okay, let's put that on the list to discuss. Nginx, I think, is a no-brainer. Line 68.
MySQL.
Yeah. OpenJDK is a no-brainer. OpenSSH is a no-brainer. OpenStack is a no-brainer.
Ninja, I would argue, is a no-brainer as well.
I think we were on the fence for Ninja. Let's discuss
Yeah,
that next
I-
time.
Yeah, okay.
Also, Ninja is duplicated. Is also in line 15 with a no.
Which one is?
Ninja.
69.
Oh yeah, see.
Pip npm.
That should be debated together with pip.
MongoDB though should probably go if we put the other ones on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
MongoDB, I think that was number one for the open source ones.
According to this,
Not open source software. Yeah,
Oh.
is it not now? Is it? I forget what
Oh, yeah,
license
what's
we're
the
using today.
license change? Okay, maybe that's sorry.
all right, well, I guess.
I
Okay,
think
we'll debate that one.
Redis is safe, I guess.
Redis, yeah. Do we have that?
Yeah, it's
Sorry, what was that?
85.
85. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mattia. Any other ones that come off as no brainers? I
OpenVPN.
think we said PM.
But we were debating that one. I mean, there's, I think 103, at least 104. I mean, all the SQLite we already said was a top open source database.
So do we want to say no on Percona because we have that one as well a little bit further up?
I think we wanted to, I mean, I don't know, we want to, is it a definite no? Anybody
Well, that
wanna
wasn't even
do-
in our top 10 list of top 10 databases at all, or most widely used databases at all.
Let's not do any no's right now. Let's just do the
Yeah, yeses.
yeses. Let's take off SQLite. Actually, I want to discuss that one.
Okay,
What that is, not
Python
decided.
line 83.
Agreed.
Yes,
PHP 80.
Yeah,
still around.
Perl as
Um,
well.
Somebody
Perl's
mentioned,
fun.
somebody mentioned OpenStack, but I think you skipped over it. OpenStack,
it's 73.
it still is.
I would
Is
also
this
say
another multiple projects one? Should we?
Yeah, it's one of those ones that has a bunch of projects under it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll debate that.
We'll figure out
Yeah.
if we can.
Okay.
And
down
what-
maybe.
And what about VPN, OpenVPN?
Yes.
It's
There's a-
still very, very widely used, I think, even though
And
there
it's-
are a lot of new alternatives.
Yeah, but it's very used and it's kind of critical because breaking that can be troublesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Wait, why is npm yes?
Oh yeah, we were still gonna discuss this, sorry. Thank you.
Would Moosel be a yes, considering that we giblibc is considered a yes, so we're doing
Mm,
IoT?
Let's discuss it.
yeah, I mean,
Well, it's critical for Alpine, and we've listed Alpine as previously a
Agreed.
yes. So I don't think we can say that Alpine is critical and Muscle isn't.
I think you
Agreed.
can.
Okay.
I have an argument that like the component, if something's critical, doesn't mean all the components are critical.
Okay.
But we'll talk about it next time. I don't know about this one specifically.
Neo4j would fall under the same cloud as MongoDB, just for the record, because they have kind of very similar licensing. They're
Oh,
not really open source,
there's a free version. I don't know if it's fully free, but
but it's
Yeah.
not open source still.
yeah, add a note there. We need to see what the license on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
what is a no-brainer for me is also U-boot line 96.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. I would agree
Make
there.
yes then.
Thank you.
And
Tomcat.
the final libraries as well, libmpg, zlibs. I mean, those are
As
all
I was saying
yes,
before, yeah. I mean, zlib, I think, is
Yeah, you
fine.
don't, you don't get anywhere without that.
And Z standard has become a standard.
What about Yocto project?
I think we want to debate that along with the build stuff that we did above.
Okay.
Said yes to the other one. I think we kind of have implicitly said yes to Yocto too, but
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I want to bail out as I have another call in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
There's
So-
Ubuntu on 97 if we're not going to do distros, and I think we said no to Debian. So
Yeah, we said no to those. Yeah.
with Tomcat, what do you guys think about Tomcat?
I think all enterprises still build all their software with this, right?
Yeah.
So like reluctant yes, is that what we're saying?
Yeah,
Kind of
Yes.
with Jenkins. David Wheeler says yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're at a good stopping point.
Yeah. Yeah. Good work, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, and I think that was a good approach, maybe, because it does seem like a lot of these will probably get, general consensus on pretty easily. And then some are going to require a little bit more, discussion and digging. So it's good that we knocked out a lot of these. And looks like we only have maybe a handful more of not decided. So we could probably knock that out by our next meeting.
agreed.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you so
great.
much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for the great discussion today, everybody. Thank you, Jeff, for facilitating.
Thanks, Amir, for
Yeah, thanks,
driving.
Jeff.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye,
Thanks,
everyone. See you in 2
everybody.
weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.